Okay, we are live. Let's get the music started. Let's see, where is my music? Ah, there we go. And I just told the Discord chat that I'm online. Got a few things to talk about this morning. Has been a little bit of interesting news. The primary thing I want to do today is to run through a draft of an upcoming video. So I have a bunch of slides where I'm going to very carefully talk about low IAF and the evidence we have for it. I've discussed this a bit in a previous stream, but in an ad hoc manner. Now what I'd like to do is be much more structured about it. I have more data. I did a lot of data collection over the past week or so. So I'm very excited about that. I see Mir has joined us. And what is Mir saying? It's a tool. Mir has installed a tool called Neuro on Mir's phone, which Mir's an iPad, or sorry, an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy Android. And so Mir's going to send the link on the Discord. Many models, many great features. I sent it. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to add this to my things we'll talk about, which is, of course, we're going to talk about AI because that's the most important thing. That's the subject of every day, really, isn't it? Let me look at my notes here. Show notes. Talk about local AI. I have some updates from my own end on this. It's Neuron. Okay. You got me excited when you said Neuro because I thought of Neurosama. Because I want a companion like Neurosama to join me in my streams. Let's see, today. Yeah, we can go through IAF. We're going to go through, I'm adding local AI. A few updates there. And then we're going to talk about an announcement of a new Microsoft Surface, which took me by surprise. I definitely have some thoughts to share about it. Mir's asking, what are my opinions on Digidraw? So that's our newest brand. I think they publicly were revealed, in my recollection, at the end of 2025 in November, I believe. And it looks to be in the Huion family. I tried their, what's it called again? The Digidraw Touring Medium Basic, which is basically it is literally a match for the Huion Fuego. I was very happy with it because I'm very happy with the Fuego. Now, they have two pen displays, a 14-inch and a 19-inch. I will probably get the 14-inch just at some point to try it out. Look, I'm all for more brands and more innovation. Let's see how they do, right? But I had a long stream about Digidraw. I think the challenge is it's hard to launch a new brand. Tablet brands especially, what I recommend people is buy a brand where other people around you have the same brand, because then you can get help if you need it. So new brands have it tough, but I think it's a good start if they're building off this technology, the basis of Huion. And just so everyone understands, this is not an unusual thing. So there are only a few tablet brands actually, or companies that, and each company has multiple tablet brands. In fact, Wacom is really rare in this circumstance because they are a company that has one brand, which is Wacom. Huion owns Huion and Gaomon, and I'm not sure about the relationship between Digidraw and Huion, like if it's a subsidiary brand. Let's see. Mir says they are getting good. Maybe not good when it comes to pressure smoothing, but it's getting there. That's great to hear. And things are getting better, let's be honest. And the tech is getting so good, pretty soon it won't matter which tablet you buy. I mean, seriously, it will not really matter. Nothing beats the Gaomon S620. Oh, that reminds me, I ordered it based on your comments and off Amazon, and the order got canceled by the whoever I was buying it from, so I have to buy it again. Okay, so let's begin with our first topic, which is IAF. That's a topic we talk about all the time. What's your opinion on Snapdragon? It's getting to laptops. Okay, I tell you what, instead of IAF, let's talk about Snapdragon, since that's what Mir is asking about. Okay, let me yeah, let's go here. I found somehow this article from Windows Central, and this is the news today, okay? Which is, as expected, Microsoft has unveiled refreshed Surface Pro and Surface Laptop devices with Qualcomm's latest SoC, that system on a chip. New colors, but are $500 to $600 more expensive than the predecessors. I have the predecessor right here. Okay. And this is with the Snapdragon X Elite. Okay, so I have it. I'm satisfied with it. However, I wouldn't recommend it for people with drawing tablets. For reasons I'll explain in just in a minute. Let's see, Mir says, I saw Snapdragon 8 Elite 5 running Cyberpunk on high settings in Windlater. Ludashi, is that a variation? I don't know what Ludashi means. I assume it is a variant of Windlater. At 20 to 25 frames per second on a phone. Not bad, actually. It's good to see, because Cyberpunk is a challenging game to run. So let's take a look at this announcement. So last month introduced. Oh, I see. Last month they introduced the Surface Laptop 8 and Surface Pro 12 with the Intel Core Series 3 chips. It's hard to even know how to pronounce it. Not pronounce, but these names are awkward. So while the Snapdragon models are cheaper than the Intel ones, they're still significantly more expensive than Surface laptops. Yes, that's correct. The new Surface Laptop 8 with Snapdragon X starts at $1,600, and the Surface Pro 12 starts at $1,500. The entry-level SKUs include a Snapdragon X2 Plus with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. Let's just skip on. Okay, so what's new outside the silicon? Microsoft touting 53% faster graphics performance, fine, compared to the last gen models, along with longer battery life and up to 20 hours on Surface Laptop, 15.5 on Surface Pro. The Surface Pro Flex keyboard is now available in Dune, a color, I suppose. Surface Laptop 8 now comes with a beautiful new jade green colorway. I like the old days when we just said color, not colorway. The Surface Laptop has a new display, 15-inch variant with much higher resolution. Okay, that's good. 262 ppi. And a new haptic trackpad, that's good too. This is where it gets interesting. The last gen models could be configured with either 16, 32, or 64 gigabytes of RAM. I didn't know about the 64 gigabytes of RAM. I never saw that advertised anywhere, at least not that I recall. I got one, the one I have in front of me is 32 gigabytes. The new devices have a 24 gigabyte RAM option. Okay. So these are qualified. So what the summary of this article is, these are nice quality of life upgrades to the Surface Laptop and Surface Pro. Yeah, okay. So here's my take on this. I'm gonna be just very brutally honest. I don't recommend them. I just don't. And it's not because there's anything wrong with them. Okay? Well, there is one thing that's wrong with them. I don't think there's enough there to justify getting. And I say that having one, okay? And I rarely use this, but it's not bad. Nothing's wrong with it, except one thing. Apps I run still show compatibility issues. Now, I haven't really tried it in a couple of months, but things like Discord, for example, are slow. They're laggy. I don't know why that is, and I don't really care. But it's clearly a problem with this Surface Snapdragon laptop. So I'm sure things are, and they are. I've done this. With Office, Word, browsers. I'm sure those are probably fine. Discord in a browser actually does work fine. But there's just a lot of apps that, I call this a long tail of compatibility, which work, but they're just little issues. Now, it's going to take time to whittle down those issues. Hopefully, as the new, the Surface, or not Surface, what do they call it? RTX Spark? Yeah, Surface Laptop Ultra. Yeah, that's it. That's an ARM processor. Hopefully the same work that's going to make it work well will translate to improvements here. I assume that is true. But it's going to take time. So right now I would not recommend them. They're certainly more expensive than they need to be. And it's a bad time to buy stuff. Okay? I think the one I got with 32 gigabytes of RAM was, I think, $2,500. Could have been a bit more. Honestly, if you want that much RAM, get a mini PC. I bought a Minisforum UM870 Slim. I have two of those, and this is after the brand price has gone up for $700. So you can save almost $2,000. Yeah, it's a little bit less convenient, but it might be a better purchase for a lot of people, and you get more ports. Let's see. Mir says, if you have a display tablet planning to buy something portable, would it be better to buy a mini PC or a laptop? Oh, I just talked about that. I think if you're okay, if you're gonna buy a mini PC, it works fantastic, but you got to use it as a desk. If you're using a laptop on your lap or like on a bus, like that mini PC is not going to work well in those circumstances. But if you're setting up at a desk, like at school or a hotel, mini PCs work fine. Okay, you just got to make sure the mini PC works with the cabling that you need, right? But I use my Minisforum UM870 Slim with a whole bunch of tablets, and it works fantastic. And if I really needed to go set up another desk, I just, turn it off, unplug it from power, and move it over. It's crazy how people back then dreamed about 32 gigabytes of storage and now 30 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, 30 gigabytes of RAM is going to be normal. It's going to be typical. Boring soon. Let's see. How about using a Linux distro on the Surface? I don't know. I don't think... My understanding is with ARM, or maybe it's specific to Snapdragon, that Linux is either not supported or not well supported. I believe it just doesn't work. But I haven't really tried there. Let's see. Michael Atherley says, I'm buying my first display tablet. It's between the Wacom 24 Non-Pro and the Huion Canvas 22 or XP Pen Artist Pro 22. Okay. So we got to clarify, Michael Atherley, which exact models, because some of these have very similar names. Okay. So with the Wacom 24 Non-Pro, I think you're talking about I think it's the new one, which is the Wacom Cintiq 24, released in 2025. With the Huion Canvas 22, there's several models. I'm gonna assume for now that you mean the Huion Canvas 22 Gen 3, which was released this year or late last year. Fine tablet. And for XP Pen Artist Pro 22, I hope you mean the Artist Pro 22 Gen 2. Now, for all those 3 tablets, they're all pretty good, actually. They're all pretty good. I think I would... Mir's asking, is the Wacom 24 non-pro is 2025? Yeah, that's right. That's the question we're trying to find out. So if it's those 3 models, they're all great. I would probably go with the... it's interesting how to choose here. The Wacom has the best drawing experience. Okay, Michael's confirmed it. Yes, the new Cintiq and the Gen 3 Huion and the Gen 2 Artist. So this is actually an interesting choice. If you want to be guaranteed you're getting, the best pen, super light IAF, and Wacom's reliability, then the Cintiq is the choice. So put that on one side. The Huion Canvas 22, now they all have the same resolution, which is interesting. So you can't choose them on resolution. The Huion Canvas 22 Gen 3's benefit is that it has the best non-Wacom pen. It's right now almost as good as a Wacom pen. It comes with the PW600, one of the PW600 pens. It's a very good pen. And the XP Pen Artist Pro 22 is my favorite. It was my favorite 22-inch before the Canvas released, right? So the Artist Pro 22 Gen 2 is also good. Its pen is good, just not great. I say it's great, maybe even, but not excellent. And it's a little bit inconsistent in its maximum pressure. So you can't go wrong with any of them, to be completely honest. Go with the one with the brand you feel most comfortable with. If you have already, you said this is your first display tablet. If you already have a pen tablet and it's one of those brands, just stick with the same brand. That'll be easier for you than trying to switch brands. So that's my thought. Tell me if that makes sense, Michael. Okay, back to Snapdragon. Yeah, look, it's too much. It's too much money for not enough real improvement, okay? And dealing with compatibility issues. So I'm not gonna recommend to get these new Snapdragon X2 Surface devices. I'm sure they're great. They obviously have better graphics performance. They obviously have better battery life, but I don't think there's anything really super compelling about getting them. And I already have the older X2, so there's nothing super compelling about it, right? But it does have really good battery life compared to the old Surfaces. So that I'm very happy with that. So that's my thought there. Let me turn down my sound in my own ears a little bit. Okay, there we go. And let me verify. I think the music may be a bit too loud on your end, so I'm going to turn the music down. Okay, there we go. That means I got to turn the music up in my ears. Okay, sorry about that if that was too loud for you. That makes sense, Michael? Great. And join the Discord if you have questions. Lots of us have these tablets and have discussed them, so we're always happy to. Mir says, Mir will be right back. Okay. Let me find the Discord link real quick. Because, people don't rely on me for things. The Discord server has plenty of people who have experience. Okay. So what I want to do in this session is go over, really run through a draft of a video I'm working on. And I'm just going to perform the presentation of this topic just as I would record the video. So I will be interactive. Feel free to interrupt. But if what I want, the reason I want to emphasize this is you're going to see a version of this published. I'm not recording this live stream, and I'm not going to take sections of this video and publish it as the live stream. What I like to do is to use this as a way of getting community feedback. And once I feel like, okay, now I know what questions people are going to have and what they're going to struggle with and what I'm saying, I'll modify the content as needed. And I find that this allows me to do a couple of things. I get some early validation, early feedback. I can take those corrective actions. And on top of it, it actually makes me motivated to create the content. Because my channel, on YouTube, you'll see a lot of channels that are essentially regurgitating something on Wikipedia, or they're sharing just their opinions. Oh, Michael has joined the Discord. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Yeah, just ask there, and people will be happy to share their experiences. So what was I talking about? I was talking about, gosh, I can't remember. I just totally lost track here. Oh yeah, so many YouTube channels are essentially regurgitated Wikipedia and now AI slop. I don't publish that many videos. Like maybe once a month would be a lot for me, because my videos tend to be all original, meaning I am doing new things that have not been done before, and measuring things and writing or vibe coding at the very least code. So it's not things I can do fast. And sometimes creating this content requires a lot of researching, really doing things. I mean, experimenting with devices and software, and writing all that up takes a lot of effort, and it can really drag me down. It can take so long to do this work that it kind of demotivates me. So doing a live stream where I go through the content interactively the live streams are very engaging for me. I love doing them. So this accelerates my production. Okay, having said that, let's get to the presentation. Where is it? Is the first question. Okay, I know where it is. It's on my Synology. I may have to close out something. Where is it? Synology. That's not it. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna have to find where I saved this presentation. So just give me one second. I'll be right back. Let's put the right back message. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I solved the mystery. I know exactly what the slide deck is now, so give me a second. Slides. I think this is, yeah, here we go. Okay, let me move this over. Close this window and move. Okay. Oops, where did that presentation go? Okay, and now let's show you both screens. Okay, now while you see that screen, I'm going to bring up a document so that I have where's my Chrome browser here? There we go. Chrome. It's sort of my notes for everything. And I want to go to Google Docs. And I'm actually turning on my Mac. What do you call it? Not just my Mac. What do you call this? My Mac, my iPad. I couldn't remember the name of the device for a second. And I'm doing that because I am going to actually record myself talking with an app called Google Edge Eloquent. And so it will not only transcribe what I say, it will actually summarize. Clean up the text and summarize, even in bullet point form if I want. It'll give me multiple versions of it. This means that I can take this presentation and I don't have to rewatch the video. I can actually get the notes, cleaned up notes of this transcript and use that as the script, right? That's another way I'm accelerating this process. But it's good to have that going on. So I'm reading, or at least I'm looking at my previous notes, and I'm developing a new set of notes as I go through this. Okay, here we go. So let us turn on. Let me do a quick test. Okay, it is seeing me, it is recording. I can see the text there. And you should check out this app, Google Edge Eloquent. Kuyoholic. I saw one of your replies to someone about force proportions today, and it made me realize I had my talent set to full area for the past 2 years. I had zero clue that was a thing. Yeah, listen. 2 years? I was doing it for 20 years. I always wonder, I'm not joking. There were times Wacom would release a new tablet, and let me put my face in the normal way for a second. Yeah. There would be a new Wacom tablet. I'd have like an Intuos 3, I'd get an Intuos 4, an Intuos Pro. And I would, every time, I'd get this tablet and I'd be like, man, something feels weird about it. And I didn't know, I had no clue. And nothing, you look in the Wacom UI, nothing really would make you believe. I saw that button, this checkbox, force proportions. I didn't even dawn on me to click it or to think about what it might have meant. I just always assumed that the driver and the tablet just kind of figured things out with the computer. But then it's like, wow, it doesn't do that. It actually requires you to make this. So yeah, 20 years and one day I turned it on and it just like a switch. It just feels much better. But I'm glad that helped you, Kuyoholic, really. I love hearing this comment. People like, other people will say like, oh, it just felt weird for a long time and I had no clue. Exactly what you're saying. A lot of people think they don't like pen tablets because of this, because they don't realize this is going on. And I tell them, just change the switch. Like, oh, okay, now my pen tablet feels good to draw with. Okay, let's begin. So I talk about IAF a lot, and that's what I want to focus on in this video or this section of this stream. And let's put So IAF stands for Initial Activation Force. I mention it a lot in my videos. And the way to understand IAF is that it is the smallest amount of physical force that the pen can detect. It's the minimum amount of force you have to press down with for the pen to start drawing or click, okay? And it's very critical to the experience of the pen. Most people want a low IAF. Now, before I go further, I just have to remind everyone about this because it is just not clear. It is not the tablet that detects pressure. It is the pen, which is why I tell people be very careful about the pen, because there are delicate components inside the pen which can be damaged if you throw the pen or drop it, okay? And if that happens, you can break or alter the pressure sensitivity in ways you will not like, okay? And it's not fixable once you do that, so take care of the pen. In previous videos, I've shown this picture. Let me change how I present this. Oops, yeah, there we go. I've shown this picture. which is a scale that shows you different segments of the pressure range, near the 0 gram force boundary. So these segments have different names: excellent, great, good, okay, and avoid. And different people will have different views on what qualifies as, good. For example, scale is based on, what I think will work for the vast majority of people. But someone like Cube, for example, he thinks quite strongly that my good category is like 3 gram force. For him could not be in the good category. It would be in the avoid category. Okay, he likes to see it even lower. But again, I think this works out for most people. Now, if the scale is trying to tell you what good and bad are in terms of IAF, and lower is always better, then we have a real question about this segment, which is the excellent segment. Oops, where did this item? Okay. And the excellent segment is between 0 gram force and 1 gram force. And as we look at the excellent segment, we have to ask ourselves, is such a low IAF, is this for real? Are there really pens that have such a low IAF? Now, conventional wisdom says that Wacom, specifically their professional pens, have a low IAF of less than 1 gram force. This is repeated. I've repeated it. You'll see it repeated on various blogs and YouTube videos. That is the conventional wisdom. Now, the challenge for us is we don't want to rely on conventional wisdom. We don't rely on, vibes. We want to rely on evidence and data, not dogma. So, in this video, I am going to talk about that excellent segment, less than 1 gram force. And I'm going to show you very specifically the evidence we have and the data that's been collected that talks about it. And let's get right to the point, right? Let's get right to the point. Is that low IF real? Yeah, it certainly is. Are there pens that have such a low IF? Yes, there are. Okay? So let me I don't want to wait for you to get to the end of this video to understand that. That's the conclusion. It is real, and we're going to show you what supports those claims. Our first piece of evidence comes from Wacom. And there's going to be 2 pieces of evidence from Wacom. This is the first one. It's a brochure they made some years ago for the Wacom Cintiq 24 HD. I forget the model number. I'll add that in the final video. So there are 5 physical pages to this brochure, and our interest lies on page number 3. So all the text is in Japanese. Don't worry about that. But one thing we can clearly tell, because there is some text here that's in English, it says Intuos 4 technology. So we are talking about the Intuos 4 family. This kind of just helps date things. And there's a picture of a pen, which is very clearly, if you're familiar with Wacom pens, this is very clearly a Wacom Intuos 4 grip pen, model number KP501E. So remember that, Intuos 4 grip pen, KP501E, because that will come back. We're going to focus on that throughout this video. Now, already, even without translating it, there's some hints about the topic of this text. First of all, we see a number here, 2048. Well, that suspiciously looks like a number of pressure levels. And it is. But I just want to point out, that's one evidence that this is talking about pressure. The second is this intriguing section here that says 1G on. Now, when I measure physical force, I and Cube, and I was inspired by him, use the unit gram force, but manufacturers and other people often just say grams, which is okay. It's not really correct. You should say gram force, because grams is unit of mass. But whenever you see something like 1G, it makes you think they must be talking about physical force, and because it's 1G, it's 1 gram force, and they probably talk about IAF. Okay, we don't know what the on means right now. We're unclear how to interpret it, but don't worry. I asked Gemini to translate this into English, and specifically I asked it to translate it into very, how can I say, into very literal, like what is its most direct translation, not transform it and keep the marketing talk. Okay, so the language here in English is probably a little awkward, but it's what Gemini at least assured me is this is like more technical and more accurate to what was actually written in Japanese. For those of you who speak Japanese, feel free to comment on the translation. I'm curious what you think. So we were right. Our initial idea that 1G, which here is shown as 1G on load, is in fact about the IAF. You can see this text below says, with an infinitely light on load and ideal pen pressure characteristics. You see, to me, it's very clear this is talking about IAF. Okay? So this is our first piece of evidence. Wacom itself is talking about 1 gram force. Our second piece of evidence comes from Wacom, and this is another brochure except for a slightly older device. This is the Wacom Cintiq 21UX. So this only has 2 pages, but on the second page, there's a list of specs for the pen, and there's this line here. It says pressure to activate tip switch. Tip switch is sort of like their technical term for the when you're pressing with the nib. They call that the tip switch. In Wacom, sort of in the technical terminology, the buttons are switches. So like, the first and second button are like switch number 2 and 3, and the nib, that is switch 1. Okay, that's why it says tip switch. Pressure to activate tip switch. So this sounds like activation force, and what's it say? Quite explicitly, less than 1 gram or gram force. So now we have 2 pieces of evidence from Wacom talking about the Intuos 4 grip pen, which is the same pen that comes with this Cintiq 21UX. So, what can we take away from this evidence? We know of exactly one pen model. There's at least one pen model, the Intuos 4 grip pen, KP501E, where Wacom explicitly mentions 1 gram force IAF, and in fact also mentions less than 1 gram force IAF. So this is one piece of evidence. Another interesting outcome of this evidence is that, well, we know that the KP501 was released around, I think, 2009. What this means is, if we accept the brochures as true, it means that Wacom has been able to achieve low IAF, less than 1 gram force, for at least 17 years. At least 17 years. That's a long time. It isn't a new thing. So people have had experience with these pens for a long time. Our third piece of evidence is data coming from Tablet Expert Cube. And he has on Google Docs the spreadsheet that he calls the Wacom Tablet Master Sheet. And when you want to get the hardcore measurements for IAF, I point people to this master sheet. And now let me take a little bit of water here. This is a screenshot of the entire master sheet, at least one of the tabs. There's a lot of data here. Cube carefully measures things. I want to emphasize that because it's going to come up later. He's talked about how he measures many occasions, and here I'm talking about pressure especially. He is very careful and methodical, and then just to be upfront, he is far better at measuring IAF than I am, which is something you're going to discover in this video. So IAF is in here, though it's hard to see because we have so many rows on screen. We're going to take a look. Now, I said there are multiple tabs, I think Excel would call them worksheets. So the Wacom Tablet Master Sheet is actually one of the tabs. There's another one called Wacom Pen Master Sheet. So we're going to click on that and take a look. Now, we don't need to see the rows as a picture, but here are the columns that are listed. There's a column for, you can see the category, the model identifier, like KP501E. And there's one column of interest. It says max pressure levels, and this is the full name of the column, max pressure levels, and in parentheses it says approximate physical pressure range. And it gives a series of percentage numbers, which I've listed out in a column. The very first one says approximately 0.0001 to 0.01%, and then it goes to 1%, 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. So I think the way to interpret this is the percentage pressure being reported by the pen. And later, if you look into the rows, let's say row 42 here, which is for the KP504E, this is a pen where it shows the actual data, and you can see it right there on the right. Let's zoom in. It says 8192, the number of pressure levels, and then there's a series of gram force values, so physical force values. If we break that apart and map that to those percentage values, here's what you get. Now this row here that says 0.001 to 0.01%, that corresponds to approximately less than 1 gram force. This row is the IAF, okay, or a very, very close approximation. Now, if you graph this data, you get something like this, okay, where physical forces on the x-axis, the relative value, what I call the logical forces on the y-axis, and you get this curve. And I have measured 85 pens. The vast majority have this kind of response curve. Okay, and this is significant because what this tells you is that this pen, in general, EMR pens, are overreactive at low pressure. In other words, if you're trying to draw at very light pressure, the pressure kind of wildly swings, right? You can see it doesn't take much force to jump to 20% pressure. That same jump requires 500 gram force at the upper end, but here it only takes probably something like 20 gram force will get you 20%. So it's a massive jump. This is why I recommend you use pressure curves that sort of bend the other way, because they help linearize this effect, okay? Now, before we look at his numbers more closely, I want to make sure you understand the numbers you're going to see. So there's going to be these gram force, these physical force measurements for a number of pens. Please remember that his spreadsheet is for specific units that he has measured. So he might have measured 3 or 4 units of some pens, 1 unit of another. And so this data is about the units he has. You cannot necessarily say that his data applies to every unit you're ever going to find. I think in general they do apply, certainly, but it's not a guarantee because there's manufacturing variations. Sometimes a pen you get might be damaged or defective, so be aware of that. It's not a guarantee, but I think this is strong evidence. So if you look at all his data, what I've done here is there's a number of pens, and I found all the ones where he has physical measurements. That's the last column on the right. And I've highlighted all the pens that have a very low IAF of less than 1 gram force in this kind of reddish pink. So what is this? So there's a lot of these pens here. These pens have low, meaning excellent IAF. Some things we can observe about this list. Oh, sorry, before we observe that, let's take a look at the other pens in this list. So I've colored them in 2 different ways. There's a kind of a very light orange if the IAF is probably okay to slightly high. Look at the numbers you see, 8, 5, 3. But then some pens have really high IAF, and those are marked in a deeper, darker orange. 10, 15, 10, 39. So there are definitely Wacom pens out there that have very high IAF. So not all are great for IAF, but some are. Typically the professional pens are, and even some older consumer pens from Wacom. Now, what does this tell us? This evidence tells us that first of all, we have independent evidence that's not coming from Wacom, it's coming from Tablet Expert Cube, that Wacom is capable of making these low IAF pens. Okay. The other thing is that, just to be explicit, Cube's data directly supports Wacom's statements about the KP501E. And you can take a look at that just by, he has 4 of these KP501E pens, and each one of them he's measured as having an IAF of less than 1 gram force. So this is a case where his evidence isn't limited to just one unit, but we have, I think, 4 different units. So this is very compelling evidence. And one more thing, if you look at the, sorry, let me go back here. One more thing, if we look at the years of the pens, because these pens came out, have been released for decades, Wacom has been able to produce low IAF pens for about 25 years. Okay, take a look at the years in the data. Look at the ones all marked in pink. We, of course, we're seeing numbers like 2018, 2017, 2010, 2013, 2004, 2001, even one pen, the GP300E, which is from 1998, I believe. So this isn't new to Wacom. They have been doing it for over 2 decades. So there's history here. Now, the other thing to draw out here is that it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And by mixed bag, what I mean is some Wacom pens have low IAF. We see a bunch of Pro pens that do. And some have high IAF. Just depends on which pens. Okay? And we'll talk more about some of these specific pens a little bit later. Our 4th piece of evidence is from XP Pen. And they have a YouTube video called, I'm going to show you a YouTube video where they were doing they were showing us how they do IAF testing of their X3 Smart Chip pen. And that's a very good pen. And it's this video, the link is there. You can find it in the pinned comment. And I'd recommend you watch this. It's actually a very interesting video. So we're not gonna watch the video, but I took screenshots. So this woman here is talking to the audience, and you're seeing this apparatus here, okay, to her left. It looks like there's multiple units here. And I've labeled what I think I'm observing here. So first is this entire machine is going to, there's presumably right here a scale, okay, for measuring the physical pressure. On top of the scale is the PCB of the digitizer. So this is the tablet without the plastic shell, okay? And it looks like it's taped to the scale. And then, of course, the pen is held by this device vertically. And what happens is in the video, she's going to press, I believe, this green button. And when she does, it's going to start pushing the pen down with more and more force and recording what the scale says and what the tablet's telling it, the digitizer. Mir, we just got started talking about IAF. We started talking about the data we have about from Wacom about low IAF pens, and we looked at Cube's data for low IAF, and now we're looking at our 4th piece of data, which is from XP Pen. So this device is measuring the IAF. That's the topic of the video. And if we look further in the video, she's gesturing, and she's showing you the application they built to measure IAF. Now, what you'll see here is a graph. On the graph is the physical pressure on the bottom, and on the y-axis is the logical pressure, okay? Now, what do you notice? There's 2 graphs here. Maybe they measure the same pen twice or 2 different pens twice. But they both have that characteristic. They go up sharply and sort of bend over, okay? And this is typical for EMR pens. So this shows you that my comment about Cube's data sort of aligns very closely what XP Pen has for their pens. Now in their app, you'll notice what they collect there's 2 columns of data here. There's the physical force, what they say is grams, so it's really gram force. And you can see that on the right is the logical pressure, okay? So how to interpret what's literally being shown right now is, notice that the physical force bounces here between 1.2, 0.9, 1.2, 0.9. So it looks like this machine is taking multiple measurements, okay? And for each of these measurements, it's very low physical pressure, and you're seeing 0, okay? Meaning the pen has not activated, so it's returning 0. Now later on, if she scrolls down and shows you, actually when it starts transitioning to non-zero values, okay? Now this is actually quite important because, and I'll move her hand out of the way, there was a transition from 0 to an actual non-zero value, and this is where the IAF is. Now, because it can be hard to read the numbers, I've extracted them here. So that table in the UI is showing you at 2.8 gram force, that specific pen she's measuring, that unit, is giving back a reading of 159, which is the first non-zero value. So the IAF is 2.8 gram force. Some of you are probably wondering, why doesn't it say 1? Well, it's a good question. And in fact, it's because pens seem to be hypersensitive at low IAF, it is very rare that you get a jump from 0 to just 1 or even 2. It tends to be that initial value is a higher number, like 50, 80, 100. I've even seen sometimes 200 or 300. It's just a nature of the business. It's the nature of just sort of, I think, the physical implementation of the pen. Nothing wrong with this, okay? Though I myself am, of course, we'd all intuitively like it to be reporting as 1. And maybe if their measuring equipment was even more sensitive, they'd be able to find a 2.5732 gram force, which will give you exactly 1. But I'm sure it's probably very hard to do that. This is good enough, though. This is totally fine, because you wouldn't be able to detect the difference between 2.57 and 2.8. Okay, what have we learned from this? I think we're now on the fourth piece of evidence from XP Pen. First of all, we have learned there is a way of measuring IF. It is possible. It can be done. It doesn't have to be done by humans. It can be done by a machine. Okay, and it's repeatable. That's very important. So, and I assume that Wacom does this. I assume that Huion does this. So we can understand at least that there's a basis when these brands say that our pen supports an IAF. They're not just making up numbers. Now, the other thing we realize is that non-Wacom brands, here XP Pen, but certainly in Huion as well, they are getting close to Wacom's low IF. They're not at less than 1 gram force, but we saw with this example, when this pen is, recent, a couple of years ago from XP Pen, we saw quite literally 2.8 gram force. So it's in the ballpark. It would not surprise me in a few years, in 5 years, XP Pen, Huion are going to be having pens with the same low IAF as Wacom. So I think that is going to be inevitable. I do think we need to continue pushing on them to do that, because we want them to get there. We want to feel like these are as good as Wacom, and we should give them that feedback. Though, to be completely honest, personally, I think some people do need super low IAF. I myself am kind of totally fine with 2 gram force or 3 gram force, but some people definitely need less. Our fifth piece of evidence comes from me. So I have data, and my data is not perfect. In fact, I think you're going to see some quite obvious limitations, but I wanted to be honest with you and show you what I have collected. Now, like I said, my data is not great. Okay, so you shouldn't draw strong conclusions from it, but it's important that you see it, because I want to be honest with you about what I experience. Okay, and we'll talk more about what conclusions you can or cannot draw from it after I get through it. This is how I measure IAF or maximum pressure, or anything to deal with pressure. There's a scale. I put the tablet on the scale. I have this piece of foam which holds the pen vertically. I have metal weight on top of the foam, which helps press down on the pen. And I can sort of change how much pressure is on the pen by changing where these metal weights are on the foam. And the foam is held up by a Dragon Ball complete box set of Dragon Ball manga, which is critical because it's just the right height to hold these pens in the right place. So that's what I use my setup. It is not as fancy as the XP pen device, but it works. Okay, well, it works well enough. It's not great at IAF, and you're going to see exactly how that works. So let's scroll down here, and XP Pen built their app, which runs on that device. I have my own. I call it the Pen Pressure Profiler. It is on GitHub. Their binary releases there. It's on Windows only. And I'm not going to demo the app, but what you can see is it's actually this table on the right. There are different pressure ranges, and this is the data that's collected. And now there's a graph here, and you can see there's a whole bunch of dots. These dots actually correspond to these rows, and the bigger the dot, the more samples, more data points I have. And you can see actually, even on the graph, at some point at low pressure, the number from the pen comes back as 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And remember, there's going to be noise, but at some point, it really does hit that the pen is clearly active. You will see noise here, and that's an artifact of like the lever is not stable. So, when I change the weight, things kind of bounce, and this bouncing results in these spurious little dots here. If I held the pen there for a while, you'll see those dots get bigger and bigger and kind of float up. So what you'll see is there's like a division of dots on the lower left and dots that go high. Okay. Hi, Nick Tyler. Good to see you. More charts and graphs for gods of Excel. Yes. So this app was one I built, and then I used Claude to vibe code more of it. Claude Code actually suggested this graph, which is fantastic. At first, I was like pretty skeptical, but it's actually very useful because it lets me really see where my data is. But the table works very well too. In fact, the table for you is probably going to be easier to understand. Let's zoom into the table. So let's make sure you understand what the table is saying. Oops, let me go back. Okay. Now, this first column says Phys, and that's physical range, okay? And we're only going to look between 0 to 10 gram force. Nick, we're going to take a look at that after I get done with this part. So we will take a look at that. But yes, I have seen it. So here the ranges are divided into segments that are 0.5 gram force in width. I can make it tighter to like 0.1 gram force, but it's easier just to talk about it this way for now. And what I do is, as the pen is hanging there, the pen's reporting data 200 times a second. The scale reports data something like 6 to 7, maybe 8 times a second. So I did some experiments. I figured out how much slower the pen data is than the scale data is than the pen. It lags it by about 250 milliseconds. So I account for that, and then I have these pairs of numbers that come in. So whenever the scale reads something, I figure out what the most recent pen data is, and I log it. That's one of those dots that grows, okay? And it gets counted. So if the pen is reporting no pressure, that count is increasing in this column. If it reports any pressure at all, it's counted in this second column here, or technically this third column, okay? And you can see already there's an interesting pattern here. The first column has all these numbers and suddenly dips down real low. The second column starts at 0 and then goes high. Now, a couple of things here. You'll occasionally see numbers collect here at high pressure because, again, there's noise in the system. And the other thing you'll notice here in the activated column, when the pen is on, you're going to see, oh, hey, these numbers are low. What's going on there? And the reason for that is, once I've established that the pen can regularly get to a high pressure, I don't bother testing beyond. So, for example, if I'm sure that the pen's activates around 5 gram force, I don't bother checking 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's why you see these numbers low here. So it's not a cause of concern. The key question. So there's really three stories being told here. When is the pen under the IAF? When the pen is near the IAF, and when the pen is above the IAF. So we've established two rows here where the data is kind of mixed. Like the pen is on sometimes and off sometimes. Now, look at the third column. In this section, the pen is really around 0. In this section, the pen is really close to 100. But in these two rows, the pen is kind of equivocal. One row says 42% and one row says 84%. In other words, in this row, out of all these samples, only 42% of the time, in between 3 to 3.5 gram force, the pen was reporting pressure. In the next segment, 3.5 to 4.0 gram force, 84% of the time, the pen is reporting pressure. So now this requires a little bit of art on my thinking. These two segments tell me the IF is in this zone. If I had to say what the IF was based on this resolution, I would say it's about 3.5 gram force. Okay, for this very specific pen, which is a KP504. And I even have the inventory number so I can track it later. This is Wacom pen. That's what WAP stands for. .0005. Okay. So in a year or so, I'll look at this pen again and see if my measurements have gotten better. So 3.5 gram force is not less than 1 gram force. Okay. But maybe it's just the fault of my pen, right? Well, the truth is, here's all the different units I've measured. And what do you notice? Let's look at the numbers. My IAF values are 3.5, 3, 4, 3.75, 2.2, 2.3. So some of these are Wacom Pro Pen 2 and some of these are Intuos 4 Grip Pen. Of my Intuos 4 Grip Pen, some of them are low and they're almost getting to ones. 2.2 here, 2.3 here. One of them is a little bit crazy, 4.1. The Pro Pen 2s are, for me, in the 3, almost a 4. So, what does this tell you? Okay. Oh, before I continue. Now, I want to give you just a distribution of the IFs I've ever measured. Now, remember, my testing is not great, which I'll talk about. But I have never cracked that's below 1 ever in any of my measurements in the last 3 years. I've definitely seen high IFs. I really believe I'm probably fine when I give you an IF value and it's like 2.5 and 3 above. But below 2, I'm not confident of these values. Anything in the 1.5, whatever, I'm not confident. Because I think that's just noise in the system. I don't think my measurement is good enough. Now, to be fair, I have never said I was good at IAF measuring. Like I said, I've never been able to measure a pen with less than 1 gram IAF. But to be fair, I think my data does support that a 1 gram force IF is in fact plausible because I'm in the neighborhood. Just like the XP pen measurements, I'm in the neighborhood. For some pens, I can reliably get 2.2 or 2.3. That's, getting close to 1, okay? Now, my process and this equipment I have and how I do things and the software have changed. I definitely am better measuring IF than I was a few years ago, but I have room for improvement. So, what are the looking at these 5 pieces of data, what are the conclusions we can draw? Number 1, low IAF, less than 1 gram force, is absolutely possible. And it's a real thing for some pens. Some pens actually do have it. There's no doubt about that. Another thing we can observe is that Wacom continues to lead in the low IAF competition. No one is less than 1 gram force except Wacom, but other brands are getting close. We can see that with the XP Pen data. And it's not visible here, but some non-Wacom pens have lower IAF than modern Wacom consumer pens. So a great example is the XP pen. Let's take a look here. It was 2.8 gram force for the X3. If we look at the Wacom data, let me go back there. What was Cube's data? The modern Wacom consumer pens are the CP923 and CP913. They have a IAF of 8 gram force and 5 gram force, and these are very similar to the numbers of that I've collected. Okay. Let's see. Nick says, "Oh, T.O. published his first impression 2 drawing on subway and 14-inch movie." Oh yeah, we'll take a look at that video. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you. Okay, so let's flip back over and I have so many slides here. Finally, I do need to figure out why my measurements don't quite match Cube's. That's an ongoing discussion he and I've had. I'm still researching. Maybe it's an equipment problem, maybe it's a software problem, maybe it's a process problem. I think it's what I'm doing. There's something I'm not doing right that he is doing right somehow. And we need more data. And I'm hoping this video will convince you, if you're an enthusiast, get a scale and measure the IAF if you can. Okay, so that concludes this part of the stream. I'm gonna go take a bio break, and then I'm gonna come back and we'll take a look at these videos that Nick mentioned. Okay, I'll be right back. Let's see, where is my... Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Let's see. There's not much to discuss. Brad is not using roll at all, so for him it's just a modified ProPen 3. Tio did try the roll, but that's Android Concepts app. No idea about it, and brush not visible. Okay, well we can. If there's something we should test, Nick, let me know. We'll try it out. Okay, let me clear out my. Okay, and let me stop my recording of what I said. I have Google Edge Eloquent was recording my talking through the my presentation, and what I'm going to do is just give me a second. That's great. I can use this as a script. Okay, great. This is fantastic. Okay, let me close PowerPoint. What? Oops. How do I close PowerPoint? Good PowerPoint. Let me save it just in case. Good PowerPoint. Okay. Let's take a look at the videos. Let me turn off my music here since we're probably going to watch a video. And let us... I think I almost really finally have gotten this new 3-monitor setup and my new video setup so that's easy for me to show you things. So let's get to YouTube. I always type in YouTube. And let's start with Brad Colbo. And
a few years back, Wacom had...
Okay, let's now show you what I see. Okay, so this is it. I think the thumbnail is... It's back. I wish it wouldn't autoplay like that. It's back, Wacom Art Pen 2, and then let's watch it. Let's watch it.
A few years back, Wacom had a product called the Art Pen. It was a pen that took a lot of the things that people loved about the standard Wacom Pro Pen and added one really interesting feature: barrel rotation. This is a sequel to that pen, and it's called, are you ready for this? The Art Pen 2. Let's check it out.
This is Brad. He likes to review the tech. He also likes to draw, and this here is his theme song.
The cringy themes.
Note, I need a theme song like this. That I love that little song he's got. Hey Saul, good to see you. Okay, you won't be staying long. Sorry for that. Saw that video. Oh, you talking about Brad's video? Yeah, we're watching it right now.
Song will continue until every last one of you has hit subscribe. I'll say this up front. I think the barrel rotation feature is super cool, but it isn't something.
Nick says PowerPoint. After 16 hours of working in presentations, you can close PowerPoint on your PC, but will still be running in your brain. Yeah. I used to, when I was working at Microsoft, I don't think I ever had a PowerPoint dream, but I don't know what you would know. I don't know what people use in the normal word, Jira or something, but I imagine an issue tracking system. Many times at Microsoft, I would have dreams of looking through the issue tracking system, let's say Jira or something like that, and triaging bugs and triaging issues. That's the only use he found for Roll, Nick says. This is really a nice demo of Roll, so it's clear what it does. I need to add that to my testing app.
That I use in my work on a regular basis.
I mean, I do have a brush that rotates like that, but his brush actually shows you how it rotates better than mine does.
Even though I've had it on the iPad for the last 2 years or so. Once I finished testing on those devices with the Apple Pencil Pro, I just kind of forgot that the feature was there. I say this for 2 reasons. First, because a new thing is released doesn't mean you should just run out and buy it. And second reason is, even though I've been testing this pen, I might not be the best authority when it comes to using it because it's not a feature that I'm like super familiar with. But with that said, barrel roll. Cool. Doesn't the Wacom Pro Pen already do that?
Okay, just FYI. He said barrel roll. but I really do believe Apple started that phrase. I do believe the correct phrase would be barrel rotation. Okay, I think barrel roll is related, but I would not use that. It's Photoshop and the brush tip is not updating live. I had problems with mine as well, not updating live when I tried Photoshop.
No, actually, it doesn't. Like I said before, the Apple Pencil Pro added it as a new feature just a few years ago, but this isn't a super common thing that you see in a lot of art pens. Now, I've been testing this out on my Wacom Move Ink Pad 14, which is one of Wacom's Android tablets, and I've also been using it on the Wacom Intuos Pro Medium tablet. This pen only works on a handful of Wacom devices right now. The latest Intuos Pros that came out last year works on those. This works on the Move Ink Pad, at least the 14-inch version that I have here, not the smaller 11-inch version though. And it works on some of the Cintiqs that came out last summer.
I think that is a miss for the Move Ink Pad 11 not to work with this pen. I think that's a big miss.
But not the latest pro level Cintiqs. I'll put the links down below in the description if you want to go to the product compatibility page and check and see if this is going to work with your tablet. So over on that website, another thing that it knows is that Wacom is currently working to bring support to other devices that use the Pro Pen 3. So if you do have one of those other devices that ships with the Pro Pen 3 but is not on the list, probably want to hold off on picking one of these up for now. Now this pen costs $100 for a pro level stylus. That's not that unusual. Oftentimes these kind of things get packed into the box.
So I do want to comment on this thing here. Let's see. I did try to Google it. Nick says, if I got it right, it's Photoshop problem. Brush tip preview still updating only when pen is not drawing. Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly what I saw. That's exactly what I saw. And it's so silly. It's easily correctable. And they just, for whatever reason, they have not fixed it. So thanks for sharing that, Nick. Okay. So let's see. Oh yeah, I was talking about the price here. So the Art Pen, at least in the United States, the Art Pen 2 costs $100, which is not cheap. But the Pro Pen 3 costs $130. So it's kind of weird. And it's kind of, this is why I think I would probably use the Art Pen. I would buy the Art Pen ahead of the Pro Pen. You get an extra feature and it costs less. What's there not to like? Now, this assumes, of course, they behave in the same way otherwise. Let's see.
So you don't really notice the price unless you're buying something like the Apple Pencil, which usually costs well over $100 for their Pro version. It is also worth noting that this is a little bit less than the...
Oh, one more thing. I think Cube, he mentioned or pointed out some post he found where I think this was maybe a post by the developer of Lazy Nezumi, a smoothing tool, that apparently in their investigations, Adobe did not implement WinTab correctly. So there's some bug in the WinTab implementation of how they talk to WinTab. So that yet another issue where Adobe has not done the right thing and just continues to just let it not get better. Because there's probably interesting reasons. I don't think for a while now, they have, I think, communicated through various ways that the Photoshop isn't meant for drawing. They should use Fresco, which very few people use. So it's just not in their interest to fix this. Regrettable. Having said that, I don't know if Fresco is any better. We'll see.
The Pro Pen 3. And in some ways, I think I like it a little bit better. The Pro Pen 3 is really thin and it's all metal. It feels really good. It feels really premium, mostly because of...
Now, this comment about all metal, I think someone in the Discord pointed out that it's partly metal and part not. And I think maybe the cap is metal, but the body isn't. I can't remember which way. Which apps on Windows do live preview brush tip? I think Krita can, and yeah, I think CSP can as well, Nick. I think I tried that live on stream, as a matter of fact. But Photoshop was the one that didn't. Probably Rebel does it as well, though I can't remember off the top of my head.
that metal casing, and also because of the way it draws. In some of the devices, at least like with the Intuos Pros and the Cintiq Pros, that pen also comes with a bunch of accessories. One of the accessories that I really like is this little rubber barrel that you can kind of slide onto the top that makes it much more comfortable to draw with, at least for me. There's also some other features that come along with that kit. You can add some like weights in the back of the stylus to make it feel a little better in the hand. I like that too. There's also some like button layouts and things like that that you can swap out as well. Cool stuff. But most of the Wacom devices that I've checked out that come with a Pro Pen 3 don't have any accessories at all. This pen is kind of a hybrid of some of Wacom's older pens. For example, it's not as thick as the older Pro Pens, but it does tend to get a little wider as you get closer to the top of the pencil. So when you hold that part, your grip feels more comfortable if you're holding it for long stretches and drawing for a long.
I will say I love the grip, the shape of the Pro Pen, sorry, the Art Pen 2. This is why I said when I first streamed about it, I think the Art Pen 2 is actually, to me, it is the true successor to the Pro Pen 2. It's more similar in price. It has a similar shape. It has an extra feature. It has 3 buttons. It's true, it does not have an eraser, but still. It feels more like the Pro Pen 2 than the Pro Pen 3 does.
Time. The top half is not rubbery like a lot of Wacom styluses, but it is like a softer plastic. It's not like a super hard plastic. The Pro Pen 3, when you don't have a grip on it, that is all metal. Even though the metal...
Actually, Nick is saying, wait, is that an Intuos Pro paired to a Moving 13? Good question. I hadn't noticed it. Let's take a look.
You can swap out as well. Cool stuff. But most of the Wacom devices that I've checked
It might
out
be.
that come with a Pro Pen
It might
don't
be.
have any accessories at all. This pen is kind of a hybrid. It does tend to feel more comfortable like a lot of Wacom styluses, but it is like a softer plastic. It's not like a super hard plastic. The Pro Pen 3, when you don't have a grip on it, that is all metal. Even though the metal does feel more...
And that should work, by the way. My testing of Intuos Pro with Android devices is they work pretty well. Let's see, Michael says, yes, Adobe prefers you to use Fresco for drawing, but we are end users and at the time I draw in Photoshop and Illustrator because I can. Certain drawing features should be common across the board. I agree. And that's definitely one of them. Especially Adobe. It's just weird when they don't do what you'd expect here because they're the number one sort of app brand for creative apps. And so you'd expect essentially them to work perfectly with the number one brand for drawing tablets.
Or premium when you first take it out of the box and use it because it's just a better material. I think when we're talking about extended use between the like softer plastic and the wider barrel, I think this is just a more comfortable stylus to hold. And it kind of reminds me, actually it a lot reminds me of one of XP Pen's latest stylus. Now one of the quirks to the Pro Pen 3's metal design is...
Let's see, Nick says, seriously, what did they smoke making Art Pen 2 incompatible with even the Pro Pen 3 devices like Moving 13? Moving 13 incompatibility with the Art Pen 2 is it's not something I like. It's not something I like. Look, the Moving 13 is not cheap. I bought it when it was like, I think, $800, and it's not even an old display. It's one that came out, I think, in 2025? So the fact that a pen that was released in early 2026 doesn't work with it is galling. It is galling. And the Moving is not pitched as I know it's pitched as an on-the-go device, but it's not pitched as a consumer-level device. Okay, it isn't cheap. Its pens aren't cheap, and so the fact it doesn't work with the Art Pen 2 it's galling. Right, and I hope it's something Wacom revisits this decision. Send them that
But
feedback.
often the base will get a little bit loose over time and you have to go in and you have to tighten it periodically. At first I thought this was just the pen that I got with my particular tablet, but now that I've used a few of these on different devices, I can confirm it's just something that happens with the Pro Pen 3. Now, since the Art Pen 2 is plastic, it doesn't really have that problem. You can remove the back, and there are some extra nibs hiding back there. When I first saw the video and saw the previews, I thought they added a little like weight back there and you could kind of slot these things in and out. Nope, we've got like 3 extra nibs back there. One of those back there is a standard palm nib. The other one is a carbon shaft palm nib, and there's also a felt tip nib that Wacom includes in here too. We have 3 buttons along the side. One thing about the Pro Pen's 3 buttons is that they're very easy to accidentally click. They tend to be more sensitive than the buttons that you have on this pen. Now, most of the time I have the grip on the Pro Pen 3, so it's not a problem because when the grip is on it, those buttons are more recessed, and so I just never...
Oh, we have a new visitor to the stream, Lost Sided KM. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
touch them. The buttons here are stiffer, so I do get less accidental clicks. Something else that I would compare nicely to one of these XP
let me
pens.
pause
Now,
here. Where's that picture? Yeah, okay, here we go. I really do like the buttons on the Art Pen 3. Sorry, Art Pen 2. I think these are clearly better buttons than on the Pro Pen 3. There's not even a doubt. Not even a doubt. This is a clear win for this pen.
Clicks. Something else that I would compare nicely to one of these XP pens. Now, mainly I was using this a lot on Android, and I didn't use the buttons much there. Actually, that's not true, because one of the buttons, when you hold down, toggles between the eraser and the pen. So when you're holding it down, it's an eraser. When you let go, it's the pen. I did use that quite a bit now that I think about it.
Let's see. Lost Side of Cam says, do you remember the background gradient tips discussion? I don't remember, actually. I don't remember. My memory is either bad or it was a while ago. Let's see, Nick says, I guess when rolling the pen, buttons can be really annoying with misclicks. That happens for me all the time. I misclick all the time. The new Art Pen 2's buttons have enough resistance and enough physicality to avoid misclicks. Let's see, Bitter Button 1831 has joined us. Hello, I love your channel and your blog posts. Thanks for all the data you have collected of tablets and pens. Oh, thank you for saying that. I love getting comments like that. It's good feedback. I appreciate it. Lost I came. Gerald Undone. The background gradient tips. I know Gerald, of course. I mean, from not personally, but I still can't remember the discussion around the background gradient. Was it? My memory's just failing me. Side note: Saul says I stumbled across a video that Procreate updated recently. I'll have to check it out. It's great on my M4 iPad Pro. Which reminds me, someone in the Discord sent a link to something that talked about Procreate on Mac OS and a video of it. So we're going to see if we can find that one and we'll watch that. Anyways, how are you doing lately? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well, thank you. I hope that shows in my face. And for the record, since I started streaming, when did I start? Actually, I can't remember. End of 2024? Was that right? Actually, I'm going to check real quick. I just want to give you the actual data here. YouTube. Hang on a second. We got to find this out. Actually, I'll just show you a picture. Because I want to answer this question. How am I doing lately? It's an important question. One that I definitely want to share with you. Let's see. Here. Okay, hang on. It's another PowerPoint I have to show you. Okay. I think you'll be I am pleased about something And I just want to share it with you. Here it is. Look at this. This is me. So this is December 2024, and this is August 2025. So a little bit of improvement. Okay. Now, because I stream all the time, I always have a photo of me available. So that's good because I can track my health through my streams. This is me today or yesterday, right? So is that an improvement, right? This is me a month ago, by the way. So even it's a little bit better than a month ago. So making, my memory is totally shot on this one. Lost sight of KM. Saul says, I always mention when your live streams pop up on the Affinity School board. Thank you. It's great when people sort of spread the word a bit. Bitter Bun. I also love tablet tech specs, finding someone who also cares about the tools and availability to work and test. Thank you, Bitter Bun. I really appreciate it. Lassa, you think December 24 looks more professional color-wise? I tell you my thoughts about December 2024. So it took me a long time to get there, and I liked it, but I was actually going. How can I say this? I wanted to develop a less tech look, right? Blue lights in the back. I know Brad has blue lights. They look good. Looks good on him. Whenever I've tried like blue or green or some wild color, I always felt it just looked weird with my skin, honestly. Right? So that is why I switched to more neutral. For a while there, I was just doing like a amber in the background, but now I've switched to gray. Because it's very, I don't know. I don't want to say more professional. It just looks more muted. Definitely. Definitely less hassle. And less change. His memory is busy by PowerPoint and IAF value. That is true. Yeah. So I'm halfway done with my journey of health, right? But I showed this to you because it helps keep me motivated to continue, right? Tremendous progress. I think you would agree. I wouldn't say I look like a different person, but I definitely feel like, I look a bit younger than before, right? Definitely healthier, definitely a bit happier. So, continuing the journey. Let's hope I got a long way to go. About April next year, if I stay on track, I should be, quote, done with my my little journey here. So we'll see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to flash through the actual changes. You can see, right? So this was it's about a year and a half ago, right? You can see me I took these screenshots from my streams. You like the color grading for December 2024? It does. Santa vibes. Wow. I'll take that. I've been watching, you see, Arib Maksud says, been watching your videos. These are so helpful. Thanks for, thank you. Appreciate you joining the stream and thanks for the super nice comment. I appreciate it. So anyway, this is all to answer Lost Sighted KM. How am I doing lately? I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. Okay, let's get back to Art Pen 2.
Think about it. On the Cintiqs, when you're on Mac or on a Windows, you can go into the settings and you can go in and customize these buttons all you want. So when we're talking about drawing, like the act of just using the pen to sketch and draw, not the barrel roll and that sort of thing, this felt indistinguishable from the Pro Pen 3, at least for me. The pressure, the initial activation rate, all felt the same.
Brad said initial activation rate, which drives me crazy. It's an initial activation force, but we'll forgive him. But he said something actually important there, which is that it felt just like the Pro Pen 3. I have the same exact opinion. And this is a common question I get. Does this thing behave like the Pro Pen 3? And as far as I can tell, exactly the same. Okay. I'll be doing more measurements, but that's as far as I can tell, exactly the same. Procreate on Mac, interesting. Saul says there really needs to be a cross-platform between iOS and macOS. Actually, you know what? I think Brad's video is good. We probably don't need to finish watching it. Let's try to talk about this Procreate thing because that's the hot topic. So give me a second. Oh gosh, I didn't. Let us actually give me a second. Let me do one more thing. Sorry, late with this. I'm just posting the Discord. I forgot to post the link. Late with this. With this, have been streaming for a while now. Okay. What do I want to do? Give me a second. Let me. I'm gonna move my Discord. Let me move this and move. Gosh darn it! Where did Discord disappear to? Okay, here we go. I'm going to move. I'm trying to find Procreate in the discussion because I think you got to see this. I think you have to see this. Yeah, okay. I found the video. LARP. Who is it that posted this? It was, oh, Gen 2. Okay. Here it is. Okay. And a look at Procreate on Mac and Procreate Dream. So by Savan Draws. What a name. Savan. I like it. Let's take a look here.
Now for the bigger news, let's move. Today I want to give some quick updates on things we can expect to see with Procreate on the Mac, as well as some updates that are coming up for Procreate Dreams. This is going to be a shorter video as there are just a few minor updates. Now first off, let's cover some updates coming to Procreate Dreams.
No, we don't want that.
Procreate Dreams is getting a new feature called Backstage
We want Procreate
Visibility.
on the Mac.
Backstage visibly or vertically flip our on everything below.
Okay, here we go.
Background filters will basically create a mask on everything below. In my last video, use the background filter. Instead, invert it and blur all liquid flipbook, I believe, and getting our first glimpse of how Procreate application. Now there's
here we go.
They called it liquid flipbook, I believe, and we'll also be able to opacity where we do have are. Now for the bigger news, let's move on to Procreate where we do have some pretty good news. So Procreate on the Mac has finished its code base being moved over to the Mac itself, and now they're starting to begin with prototyping applications for the Mac. So we're getting our first glimpse of how Procreate looks running on the Mac, and to quell some of your concerns, we don't have Procreate just running on a rumored touchscreen Mac, but we'll also be able to use dedicated drawing graphics tablets on Procreate on the Mac, and they show Procreate being used with a Wacom tablet in this video. So as we can see, the program is working on Mac, which looks pretty nice. If we take the time to look a little bit further, we can also see some of their UI design thought process, and we can see that on the bottom right, we seem to have materials, color palettes that we can select from, and we also seem to have color swatches where we can directly create them in a vertical lineup. And then it seems like there may be some color bar in the middle of the brushes as well. It also seems as if we'll be able to switch from our color wheel and all our other different types of color panels on the bottom right. At the top right, of course, we have our brushes, and it seems like both of these windows are closable as well, so it looks like we'll be able to use dockable windows that we can move around.
I love hearing that. I was wondering, Procreate is obviously optimized for the iPad, but when you have a big screen, you just have different things you want to be true, right? Let's see, Nick says Cintiq Pro 24 is looking nice. OS on it, nuts.
The top right, we have our basic set of tools, but I find it interesting that at the top middle, we seem to have access to many more tools that are usually buried in the UI of Procreate on the iPad.
So this is another thing they're pointing out. I don't use Procreate often enough that I know this, but they're pointing out, I guess, some of these tools are not normally here in the iPad version, that they're buried. So that's
And
interesting.
it looks like we'll basically just have direct access to click them at the top of our application. Now, since this is their first prototype, it's bound that a lot of these things will change, but
Let's see. Saul is asking for the link. Yes, I can post a link. Give me a second, Saul. Sorry, I was rude for not realizing, not doing that in the first place. I should have done that. Give me a second. Let me find the link. I think this is it. Copy link. And let me paste it in chat, okay? And there we go. Link has been posted. Thank you for asking about it. And let's get back to the video. Where the heck did it go? Well, I'll... Oh, I probably opened it in Discord. That's why I... Hopefully... Okay, I'm just going to have to paste it in here.
now for the bigger news. Let's move. We don't have Procreate just running on. The program is working middle print type at the iPad, and it looks like we'll basically just have direct access to click them at the top of our application.
Sorry, Nick, I think you've got it backwards. Procreate's already on iOS. They're working on porting it to macOS.
Now, since this is their first prototype, it's bound that a lot of these things will change, but let me know what you guys think about how it looks so far and how you feel about the Procreate Dreams updates that are incoming. Are you excited, or does it not look that interesting to you? If you like this video, please check out my...
Look, I think it's super excited. I think it's super exciting. Let's see if you have a link to that post, though. Actually, let's take a look at the comments. That we might learn something interesting, get some feedback. It would be tight if there's UI. Okay, so some people want the changes to come backwards to the iPad. That makes sense. Looks like this person likes the new, at least the prototype layout better. Oh, look what this person says. I'd love to use it with Wacom Moving Pad Pro. Yeah, definitely. I don't think they'll ever do it, but meaning port it to the Moving Pad Android. But it'd be nice. Okay, why do I say that? Why do I say I don't think Procreate will ever get to Android or PC? There's a suspicion by some people, which I think is plausible, that Apple essentially... okay, so let's just go back to a data point first. Procreate is a single... You purchase it one time, and once you purchase it, there's no subscription, and there hasn't been a subscription. So the question is, how do they fund the creation of Procreate? I'm not saying there's a huge mystery. I'm sure they do some things that create funding besides that initial purchase. But there is some speculation that Apple actually pays them not only to pursue development, but also to keep it exclusive to the the Apple ecosystem, right? Who needs Procreate on 24 screen? The whole purpose is to make drawing apps with minimal UI. Well, look, I think, Nick, the argument here for having... Oh, by the way, Chris Fox Art, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. I think the argument here is this. And I'm not a heavy Procreate user, so if someone is, please feel free to speak up. Okay, I think the argument is this. If you like Procreate on the iPad, there are moments when you probably feel like you need the extra real estate, or you need to take the content and move it to another full, like Photoshop, the full version of Photoshop or Illustrator maybe, or something. You need to work on it with a bigger machine. And so I can totally see someone wants to use a big display and draw, okay? Because some people will feel they want to sit at their desk and see something on a monitor. Because it's, for me, it's awkward to have something small in front of me to draw on. So to me, it makes sense that they'd want on a bigger screen, right? and they want to take all the advantages of Procreate and their workflow, meaning they've already trained their minds to use the Procreate workflow in the app. It's natural to expect that to transfer to Mac OS. So I think it does make sense. I don't know if they're going to. I don't think they're going non-minimal with the iPad, but you do want some similarity, I would think. Let's see. Saul says this is cool. Working cross-platform is very important, especially given the portability of the iPad. This way you can keep working consistently at home. Yeah, that you've said it much more eloquently than I meant, Saul. Lots of people need to do it in different locations. People are much more mobile with how they create things these days. Sometimes you're on your phone, sometimes you're on, you're on a bus, sometimes you're at school, sometimes you're at work, sometimes you're at home. And you don't have the same, you have different tools, different physical things around you for this. Bitter Bun says Procreate is just not that powerful. It does every task halfway any other app can. The only reason I see Procreate being so loved is because people are used to it. Now, to be fair, Bitter Bun, I don't use Procreate very often. I more or less just play with it. But so if you can tell us a little bit more about what it doesn't do, what it's missing for you, I'd love to see that. Chris Fox Art says design studios, advertising, graphic studios could implement Macs with tablets. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to find where this link actually came from, by the way. So it looked like I saw the word Procreate Folio. Let me just start Procreate and the name James. Let's just start Procreate James. No. Folio. What is Procreate Folio? I don't even know. Oh, it must be this communication site. General. Let's see general. Apple and cross-platform can't stand in one sentence. That is true, Nick. That is true. This was a few days ago, so let's see if we can find the actual post. I'll link it. By James. So let's just try to find James or Mac OS. James, who's James? I think the title was update. This is really hard to find. I cannot find the actual post, which is not linked here. Let's see if we can find Procreate. Let's find a link at Procreate on Mac OS. Procreate, because we're watching a video of someone reading a blog post or watching another video. Images get cut out when you transfer. Yes, I hate that. Yes, that's a huge limitation. I hate that. Like Clip does not do that. So, I'm not afraid of moving things off and bringing them back on, because sometimes I need space. But then Procreate just like, I'm deleting that. That is awful. The files are unoptimized. They kill your memory. Memory layer cap is insanity. I don't draw with a lot of layers, so I've never noticed that. It goes back to the unoptimization issue. Interesting. I don't mind using a combination of programs to get work done. I use Affinity and Procreate together all the time. By the way, for those of you who don't remember, a month or two ago, I did some vibe coding on my Mac, which is what I'm running on. And we asked it over a couple of days to build a Mac OS drawing app. It got pretty far. I'm going to continue the work at some point, maybe today. Where is it? There's this video, but we don't have this is the one I saw, Savon Draws, but there's no link to the actual original blog post. Oh, John, yeah, vector lines, that's something I would love to have. If they've added it, I haven't heard about that. But I depend on vector lines in Clip Studio Paint, right? Bitterbun says for others is a limitation to happy accidents or better pen control. Sometimes limitations are very important for creativity. Why is this one video about this topic but nothing else? Update. Let's try that. I checked their Twitter. I couldn't find anything. Okay. Let me just ask. I'll ask Google. What is the most recent update? Most recent update to Procreate running on Mac OS. Pretty decent question. Okay, I think that's a YouTube video. That's the very first one. Yeah, we just can't. Okay, this is 6 years ago. So basically, we've seen one video, but we have no other data around this topic. That is very interesting. And I've searched the Procreate forum, and I just cannot find We'll do one more time. We'll check one more time. Yeah, McLeod, that is... Wait, I thought it was possible. I've done that. Haven't I? Haven't I? I could have sworn I drew something in Clip. Can't you export it as SVG? Or maybe I'm thinking... Maybe it's the other direction. Illustrator 2 CSP worked. Let's see, Bitterbun says also... filters are very limited in general color grading as well. The only good thing is the color picker. That one's very complete. It's too constraining in general. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in a general sense. I just prefer Clip Studio Paint. For me, Procreate's just limitation after limitation, mostly because it doesn't have vector lines. Yeah, Nick even says CSP is not capable of serious vector work. Let's go to discussions again. Again, it should be under general. We'll take a look next. McLeod says you could, but they break in Adobe. Yeah, when I tried, I felt like something didn't come over correctly. I was dissatisfied with it. Let's see if we can find an example here. Doesn't seem to be. Maybe under ideas and suggestions. Nope. Okay. What I found, Nick, at least in my case, was one was definitely they came in at the wrong orientation. They were like inverted, like flipped in one way. I don't know why. I think also I can't remember. In my head I remember something about there was some messiness with the nodes, but that may just be an accident of my memory. But definitely, like, they were flipped. Maybe not all the nodes came over. I'd have to try it again to be sure. I may also recall that some things weren't editable when I expected them to be, but I don't know why. Again, it's been so long, I can't remember all the issues. Okay, I cannot see this this link this guy posted. Which is too bad because this link would be really amazing to find. But just can't find it. Okay, that's unfortunate. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna show you if I can find it. Oh yeah, where is this app? Let's see if we can find it. This is the one we vibe coded back in April. Let's see. It's somewhere here. Build, I guess. Inkwell. Hopefully this runs. This was the app that we vibe coded with Claude Code. Okay. Actually, give me a second. Let me go plug in a tablet, and we will actually try to use this thing. Okay. But you have to just give me a moment. I'll be right back. Where is my eCam? Okay, here we go. I'll be right back. Back soon. Okay, so this app was called Inkwell. We made it with Claude Code. I say we because whoever was on the stream helped spec it out and give me feedback live. So that's why it wasn't just me. We did it with Claude Code. Let's see. Okay. John says, I tried C-SPAN Android with my Cintiq connected to my phone. It's still not as fluid as macro Windows. Interesting. I haven't tried it very often on Android. I did it a little bit with my moving pad, but I just like a bigger screen. So what I wanted to show you was, okay, my point here is this. Why am I showing you this app that we built? Okay. I'm showing you this because it was an illustration of, actually, let me just fix one thing with the driver. Give me 1 second. Qualcomm Center. Intuos Pro mapping. I want to map it to my middle monitor. Select one display. There we go. Okay. There, now it feels normal. So this is painting normally. I can create a new vector layer, and I'm going to draw. I don't know what these. Oh, why are there a bunch of orange dots? This is because just to show you this is in fact a vector. If I think I have zoom implemented. Yeah, there we go. Actual vector layer. And get this. Let me draw this here. And I'm going to look at the eraser, right? And I believe I have somewhere here vector eraser mode. We're going to erase to intersection. Now watch this. So let me shrink the size of the eraser, which is I don't know where the size is actually, but see, you can actually do what CSP does. I can actually just erase by touching things, right? So that's a little oops, sorry, cancel. So why am I showing you this? I really think, honestly, we're at the stage now where we could create either individually or as a group of people collaborating. We could just make the app we want, right? We can just if we like CSP, we can make the exact app we want, doing the exact thing we need it to do. Do you want an app that draws in a very specific way that no other app can, like it's optimized for you? You can have it vibe coded. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not simple to make such an app in the sense that there's lots of little decisions and things you have to deal with. And you need to be sort of like a developer or program manager to figure all these things out. I knew Nick would have a comment. That is BS vectors. You need smart simplification system like Dynasketch has. I've never heard Dynasketch, but I'll check it out. You need something like Dynasketch to make those paths usable. Well, look, I'm not saying they're perfect. My point is, it's within our power now. You want a cross-platform app that works on Windows and macOS and Android? It's in your power to do it. You want something that's optimized for Apple Silicon, which this is. This is designed to work only on Tahoe and above and Apple Silicon, right? It uses all the newest stuff. Supports, and if I don't like it, I can ask Claude Code to change things. Now, this kind of app is complicated. Now, I worked on a drawing application in Microsoft called Microsoft PhotoDraw. So to build this app, I had to draw on my experience about memory management and, tiling memory and my somewhat limited knowledge of brush engines, my, I think, deeper knowledge about how pressure applies to strokes and opacity, etc., and width and smoothing. You'll need that background in your head in order to make an app like this, right? I mean, I'm sure it could sort of synthesize things that you needed. Let's see. Cialo Paint says, amazing. I dealt with a similar tool which nearly killed me by its complaint. Yeah. What I've discovered with this app is it's a simple app. It's missing a lot of it's got a lot of features, to be fair, but it's missing features. And it's a lot of code. It's a lot of code. I would never have been able to do this manually. But think about it, right? Seriously, you work at let's suppose you work at a design studio, or you're just an individual. You can get the exact thing you want. Maybe you want an app just to draw a very specific thing. Like you just need to draw, I don't know, I'm making this up. You need an app to just help you draw grass, like a field of grass, right? You don't need it to draw trees. You don't need to draw faces. And it just needs to be great at drawing grass. You could build an app whose only goal is to draw grass. Or to help you with hatching. So everyone knows what I mean by hatching, right? It's when you do, I think everyone does know, but let's just draw something so it's clear. When you do a bunch of hatch lines like this, right? I don't know the theory of doing this, right? I'm not really good at it. I fake it whenever I do it. But you can imagine a brush which does this for you. I don't mean like it's a filter. I mean like you maybe draw, but it actually sort of dynamically figures out the hatching, right? Is it cheating? Maybe. But it might also speed up your life. Now, if you're like me, you'd have this idea, can we experiment with some technique to draw fill in an area with hatched lines? But just to get to building an app that did that would require you to be an expert in a lot of fields. Now you can try. Now you can see and maybe get what you need, right? And it's not about having the AI draw things for you. It's about the AI helping you build the tools that you're going to use to draw. So just give you another example. I sometimes want to shade my characters, and I'm not really good with these blending modes, to be quite honest. I never can make them go the way I want. I want to be able to shade them to be warmer or cooler, not brighter, not darker. I mean, warmer and cooler. So a little bit brighter, but bright warm, and darker cool. And dodge and burn don't do that. Glow doesn't do what I'm looking for. Multiply doesn't exactly do what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some hybrid. So that's another thing I wanted to experiment. Build an app to play with just one idea. Could I develop a kind of blending mode which was optimized for people who are doing, shading, right? Let's see. Nick says, talking to McLeod, I'm not working CSP, so I can't tell. I'm an old PS plus AI user. Surprisingly, between them, Adobe didn't fuck up. By the way, let's talk about Adobe. I don't know why every now and then I look at this. I'm going to show you something. Hang on. I'm going to do it off screen, then bring it over. Because once you see it, you'll be... Look at this. Okay, here we go. Oops, I dropped my pen. So Adobe stock today. Not that the stock price indicates everything, but it's 208. Okay? Okay, look, it went up a little bit, right? Take a look at the max. Oof. Ouch. So AI launched really at the beginning of 2023, the way we know it today. And it had a huge positive growth for this was COVID time here. And actually people were doing a lot of work at home. So I think Adobe climbed, dipped back down. AI came in. They went, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here if I can. Oh, that's not doing what I wanted it to do. Can I click here? Let's do 5 years. Well, let's do, 5 years is good. So they climbed back up due to AI, and then it's just been a steady decline since. I don't know the exact story that this graph is telling me, besides the obvious, it's going down. But I think they're making a lot of money. Look at this. They're actually pulled in Adobe stock set for 46% gain after earnings beat. Will that happen? Who knows? Adobe stock fell after, so they had blowout results. Let's take a look at this. So a day before, they're like, oh, it's going to be fantastic. They released their numbers, which are great. And instead, so look at this. Oh, God darn it. 13% revenue growth to 6.6 million. Massive surge in users. 150 new million Adobe Acrobat Express users. Stock decline 25%. Now, stock declining when there's a Q2 updates is pretty typical. Happens with Microsoft all the time. But it looks like people have less faith in them right now. Right? And we'll see. I don't know what's driving it, but we'll see. I don't think they're going anywhere. But the reason I brought this up is I think AI is disrupting them in two ways, at least. Number one, of course, is 3 ways. Number one, of course, is people aren't happy with, their users aren't happy with them adopting AI. That's one issue. Number 2 is some things you normally use Photoshop for, you could just use AI for. Let's just be honest about that. So you might say, for example, well, I need a picture of some grass. It's not, you just need a picture of some grass. So like ask Google Nano Banana to generate some grass. You don't need to take a photo, and because you're not taking a photo, you don't need Photoshop. And you can ask Google Nano Banana, well, I like the photo, make it during golden hour so that the lighting is different. Make it at night. Make it more soft lighting. And that's just not a free capability. It's an inherent capability of Nano Banana. So if you're paying Google for for their AI plan, which does a lot of things, coding, document editing, creating slides, and on top of it, it can just do some photo editing for you. Why would you go find another tool if you just needed casual things? So I think that's another AI threat. And then finally, which is my point about showing you this app we created, this what I called Inkwell. It was the idea that really we can create the experiences we want. There are certain little graphical things I need to do, which I would normally do in Photoshop, which, whether they're easy or not, it's not the issue. The issue is it's a very specialized little thing. And I can just ask Nano Banana or make a small app to do it, right? It'll do exactly what I want. Since I'm asking Claude Code to generate an app, the app is running on my machine. It's not like I'm spending more money, right? Even though it's built by AI, it's not using AI, right? So these things I think may be impacting Adobe. I'm sure there are more. But yeah. Now that I brought this app back up, I think I'll do some more vibe coding on it this week. I want to just make it feel better for drawing, honestly. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other topics I want to bring up? Let me check my notes here. Notes. Oh, not that notes. I want my show notes. Let's see. We talked about the new surface. We talked about the Art Pen 2. We talked a little bit about AI. Okay. I think I'll wrap it up for the stream. I didn't want to go too long today. If I think of something else, I'll stream again tonight or tomorrow, right? And again, I'm planning a video on IAF, a detailed video, which is what we focused on the early part of the stream. And I'll publish that hopefully by the end of the week. So I don't see any more questions. So with that, everyone, I want to thank you for your time. It's been, again, a great stream. I definitely learned something from the comments I got from you. And I will try to find more about this Procreate. I'll try to find the original blog post or links because we want to get that. We want to see exactly what was posted. Everyone, thanks again for joining. I'll see you all soon. And have a great day.